A group of students have walked out of their graduation at Duke University in North Carolina, protesting pro-Israel comedian Jerry Seinfeld's speech. Only around 30 of the 7,000 students took part, chanting Free Palestine and waving flags. Seinfeld, who was at the commencement to receive an honorary doctorate, told attendees not to lose their sense of humour and to work hard.
Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. I appreciate you clicking on the video to watch it, and I would love it if I could have your support by hitting that subscribe button now. And to those of you who are returning, I appreciate you coming back, leaving your comments, having conversations about these issues, and I hope that you are subscribed as well. And to those of you who are new and not really aware of what I cover on my channel, just mostly current events, politics, anything going on in the world that I really want to focus on, just kind of that sphere of commentary, and sometimes I throw in things about relationships, marriage, dating, and all of those fun things. I have a lot of things that I would love to talk about on a daily basis, but there are only so many hours in a day, so I just cover what I can. But that is the gist of my channel, and we have a lot of fun conversations over here. I also just want to acknowledge my voice does sound a little bit weird today. I am fighting a cold, but I just thought I would sit down and at least touch on one thing that I wanted to cover today, and it does have a little bit more of a positive spin, which I think a lot of us aren't really used to most of the time, but there will be a little bit of sarcasm infused in there, but a positive message overall. So as we're aware, it is graduation season. It's the time of year that we expect to see the caps and the gowns, and we hear these inspirational words of young adults as they finish up what is hopefully a successful chapter in their lives, and they offer inspiring words as they enter a new phase of adulthood. And I personally have always kind of enjoyed hearing these speeches, even though they have nothing to do with me. But I do find the words generally pretty moving, and I feel like they can be inspiring to those of us who are, shall we say, well past the time when these ceremonies were for and directed at us. They're just always so nice to see, and I know myself and probably many others always hope that the vast majority of these kids who have gotten through their 4 years of college, particularly at some of these higher level universities, will take the words that are given at their graduation ceremonies and remember at least some of the key points and use them as motivation, especially when they are faced with the inevitable challenges that come with taking their place in the real world as an adult. However, it's pretty hard to take this crucial advice with you if you are so hung up on your political activism and so deeply committed to your need to protest literally everything, even when you either can't articulate why you're protesting, or you can articulate it but you're so completely misinformed about what you think you're standing for that you sound ridiculous, that you do silly childish things like walk out of your own graduation ceremony denying yourself the recognition that you have earned, or you tear up your own degree to stand in solidarity with people who neither know or care who you are, and whatever little awareness they might have of you, they think you're about as silly and uneducated as the rest of us do. So as the college campus protests have continued, there has been a non-stop demonstration of these toddler-esque antics. So one of these demonstrations came when actor and comedian Jerry Seinfeld was asked to speak at a graduation ceremony for Duke University, and as he got up to the podium, a group of students who undoubtedly have had their little pea brains jammed with diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout most of their time in the public education system, they got up and left because their diversity taught them that they can't welcome ideas or thoughts from people who aren't them. Their inclusion moved them to exclude someone for their race and religion, and their ideas of equity have them believing that they can't support someone who has overcome adversity based on equal opportunity in America, and that he's only worth listening to if he apologizes for being white and plunges himself into the space of perpetual victimhood where they prefer to exist. And it's really unfortunate, but not for Mr. Seinfeld or the adults in the room who have an IQ higher than 20 and a maturity level above that of a 6-year-old, but for the students who walked out, because it was a great speech. And I'm going to highlight a few points from it, because unfortunately what gets attention in the media is all of these negative things, and I think that we sometimes miss out on some of these really positive points that I think would benefit most of society to listen to more often. So let's listen to a few things that he had to say, because personally, I think that his speech deserved far more attention than these protests by these grown adult toddlers and all of the attention that they are unfortunately getting.
Thank you. Oh my God, what a beautiful day, what a beautiful class. Was there a time when we were thrilled to have you come here to learn, grow, and flourish? Of course there was. That time has passed. We do offer graduate programs in a number of different disciplines if you and your parents want to stall your ultimate uselessness for a few more years. I can't imagine how sick you are of hearing about following your passion. I say, the hell with passion. Find something you can do, that would be great. If you try something and it doesn't work, that's okay too. Let go of this idea that you have to find this one great thing that is my passion, my great passion, with your shirt torn open and your heaving pec muscles. It's embarrassing. Just be willing to do your work as hard as you can with the ability you have. We don't need the heavy breathing and the outstretched arm from your passion. It makes coworkers uncomfortable in the cubicle next to you.
So I love, some of the first things that he's saying here. At this point in our lives, when you're just getting into adulthood, you think that you've got to have it all figured out and that you need to have a passion in life. And it's funny because I personally don't think that I've ever had that problem. I wanted to do everything, and I'm still like, what can I try next? What can I learn next? I've always just kind of pursued my interests, and I've made a lot of stupid decisions along the way, and I know I'm not the only one. I mentioned in a previous video that I went to cosmetology school when I was like 19, 20 years old, because I knew I loved makeup and hair, but when I got my license and started working in that industry, I realized I really wasn't passionate about it. I enjoyed it, but I felt like I still wanted to try other things. And I think sometimes it's a little scary when we pursue something with so much effort and so much passion because we think we're going to love it. Then when we realize that we're not sure or that we don't enjoy it at all, it kind of feels like we're back at square one and we don't really know ourselves as well as we thought we did. But I know that with every new thing that I've done, I've learned both new skills, and I've also learned a lot about myself, which has given me confidence to try even bigger and more challenging things that I may not have tried otherwise. So I think it's important to take that pressure off of yourself and accept that you likely don't know what path you want to take yet, and that making mistakes or facing challenges as you figure it out is all part of the process, and it's a crucial part of the process. Let's listen to more.
I will give you my 3 real keys to life, no jokes in this part. Okay, they are: number 1, bust your ass. Number 2, pay attention. Number 3, fall in love. Number 1, you obviously already know. Whatever you're doing, I don't care if it's your job, your hobby, a relationship, getting a reservation at M Sushi, make an effort. Just pure, stupid, no real idea what I'm doing here effort. Effort always yields a positive value, even if the outcome of the effort is absolute failure of the desired result. This is a rule of life. Just swing the bat and pray is not a bad approach to a lot of things.
Obviously, love this as well. I'm sure some of you have seen some of my videos where I am responding to some of today's young adults who are exhausted just by having to work, complaining about being tired from having to work, and opposed to the idea of having to work for a long-term period of time. And what I honestly think is being lost is the fact that work makes you a better person. Challenging yourself and staying productive pushes you to fulfill more of your potential as a human being. But if you're so focused on how tired you are or focused on being angry because the job that you have now isn't your passion, then you are doing yourself a massive disservice because you don't value learning and growing as a human being, and you don't appreciate how much stronger you become from making mistakes or facing these challenges. All you see is that you're tired, and all you're focused on is what you don't have yet.
Number 2, pay attention. If you're in a small submersible that looks like a giant kazoo and going to visit the Titanic, 7 miles down at the bottom of the ocean, and the captain of the vessel is using a Game Boy controller, pay attention to that. What are you checking out down there? Oh, I see what happened. This ship sank. Now I understand why it never made it into port. If the fish where you are have eyes like Shelley Duvall and a bendy straw with a work light hanging off their head, you do not belong there. If the fish are going, I can't see a goddamn thing, you won't either.
And this was probably one of my favorite points of his whole speech. And it took me a little bit to kind of think about it and figure out what it is that he is saying, because I think this is so crucial. And what I have to say might sound contradictory to my last point, but it's really not. And that's just because you can do something does not mean that you should. And usually the warning signs of things that you should stay away from are easy to spot. But we live in a world where people are constantly trying to sell us bad ideas that are packaged nicely or look like they're cool or sound like they're cool, or that give us the idea that if we do it, we'll seem more enlightened and educated to other people. So we see all of these people, particularly in the millennial, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha age groups, who will go along with anything just to find meaning. They will accept anything to appear like they know more and do anything to get likes, clicks, and followers. And what I think is a problem is that these young adults have probably the most widespread acceptance of self-destructive behaviors than any group we've seen, at least in modern history. And from the outside looking in, we're like, this is insane. But when we try to get you to acknowledge the instability of the vessel you're in or the insanity of being guided by a video game controller, we get called haters and boomers who don't know what we're talking about. Then, ironically, when everything implodes and it doesn't go as planned, as we could clearly see that it wouldn't, we get blamed for that as well. But the truth is, we are paying attention, and we're just trying to get you to pay attention so that you don't end up on a path towards your own demise.
Fall in love. It's easy to fall in love with people. I suggest falling in love with anything and everything every chance you get. Fall in love with your coffee, your sneakers, your blue zone parking space. I've had a lot of fun in life falling in love with stupid, meaningless physical objects. The object I love the most is the clear barrel Bic pen, $1.29 for a box of 10. I can fall in love with a car turn signal switch that has a nice feel to it, a pizza crust that collapses with just the right amount of pressure. I have truly spent my life focusing on the smallest things imaginable, completely oblivious to all the big issues of living.
Again, great advice. And he's not talking about valuing material possessions or loving your stuff more than you love people or pursuing these things above, meaningful relationships and things that actually have value. I think he's saying learn to appreciate the things that you have, learn to find joy in the little things, and learn to be grateful for things that are positive so that you don't get caught up in the negativity and the struggles of life. Finding ways to be happy and grateful even when things are hard, not if, but when things are hard. It's a skill, and it's a skill that will carry you through so many things. It's also a skill that you can use to help others when they're struggling. And I love that he uses the example of the ballpoint pen, because I know that we can all relate to the level of rage that comes when a pen blobs all over the place or you have to scribble all over everything just to get it to work, versus the satisfaction of being able to write smoothly without feeling like you're scratching the paper. Those small things sometimes will just brighten your entire day. And I just have one more piece I want to listen to, but I will link the whole thing in the description box. It's about 17 minutes long, but it is absolutely worth listening to. But let's listen to this last little bit.
Hell of a ride. About work, you know how they always say nobody ever looks back on their life and wishes they spent more time at the office? Well, why? Why don't they? Guess what? Depends on the job. If you took a stupid job that you find out you hate and you don't leave, that's your fault. Don't blame work. Work is wonderful. I definitely will not be looking back on my life wishing I worked less. If that's not how you feel at work, quit. On your lunch break, disappear. Make people go, what happened to that guy? But I would not change it. And this is probably the biggest point I would like to make to you here today regarding humor. I'm going to try and reach across a couple generations here to tell you the most important thing I am confident that I know about life. I'm 70. I'm done. You are just starting. I only want to help you. The slightly uncomfortable feeling of awkward humor is okay. It's not something you need to fix. I totally admire the ambitions of your generation to create a more just and inclusive society. I think it is also wonderful that you care so much about not hurting other people's feelings in the million and one ways we all do that every second of every day. It's lovely to want to fix those things, but, all caps, but, what I need to tell you as a comedian, do not lose your sense of humor. You can have no idea at this point in your life how much you are going to need it to get through. Not enough of life makes sense for you to be able to survive it without humor. And I know all of you here are going to use all of your brains and muscle and soul to improve the world, and I know you're going to do a bang-up job. And when you're done, as I am now, I bet the world, because of you, will be a much better place. But it will still not make a whole hell of a lot of sense. It'll be a better, different, but still pretty insane mess. And it is worth the sacrifice of an occasional discomfort to have some laughs.
Absolutely. And just to address a couple of the things that he said, first, we all work at jobs that we don't like at some point, but don't blame work as the problem. Find something else that you enjoy, or at least hate a little less. Rinse and repeat until you actually find the thing that you enjoy. Secondly, you have got to be able to laugh at things, even if they're awkward, even if you think someone's going to be offended, you have got to lighten up. I know that numerous times in my life, and being married to my husband for the last 15 years, we have gone through some really big struggles, but one of the best parts of our relationship, and I think a quality we appreciate in each other, is the fact that we have always been able to laugh together. And it sounds so silly, but it is so crucial. I think it goes without saying that I absolutely love this speech. I thought it was great, and he passed on some really valuable pearls of wisdom and things that come from his experience that these young adults can't have because they haven't been around as long. So I think it's important to actually listen to people who have been around for a while and not dismiss our advice because we're not growing up in the same world that, Gen Z is growing up in. Yes, these young adults have some challenges that are different than what I had and what Jerry Seinfeld had. My parents had different challenges when they were kids than when I did when I was a kid, and their parents had different challenges than what my parents had as kids, and so on and so forth. But that doesn't mean that we don't know what we're talking about, or that people who are older than you shouldn't be listened to. In fact, Gen Z would probably be doing a lot better if they would actually listen to those of us who are older, instead of all the things that they're slammed with through the media and through social media, in the news, and through their apps. And as for the ridiculous students who walked out, of course you have the right to do that. Nobody is trying to deny you that right, though, we probably disagree with the reason that you're doing it. But of course, that is your privilege and your right of living in the country that you seem to hate so badly. But the only people, honestly, that you are hurting are yourselves. When you are incapable of being in the room with someone just because you might disagree with them on an issue, and you are taught to tune people out because you've been manipulated into believing that they're a threat, or you've accepted the insane idea that you can't even hear words from someone who hold different views than you, then you are missing out on an opportunity to listen, to learn, and to analyze different ideas and come to your own conclusions. There are no critical thinking skills involved or a need for independent thought when you insist on living in an echo chamber. And ironically, since you can't even stand to be in the room with this person or listen to anything that they have to say, you can't credibly say that you left because you disagree with them, because you haven't heard them speak, and therefore you wouldn't be able to point to the thing that you disagree with. So what you're actually doing is just showing how weak you are and how easy it is to manipulate you into literally doing anything, and showing that you're so easy to control that you don't know or care why you're doing this thing. And I know that these people think that they're making a significant point and that someone else besides themselves is going to care or try to dissuade them from their self-destructive actions, but the truth is, nobody cares. Nobody cares if you destroy your own future. Nobody cares if you burn your degree in protest. Nobody cares if you go on a hunger strike. Nobody cares if you leave during an important speech. You are the only ones that have to live with the consequences of your choices, and you have no one to blame but yourselves when those consequences come. You're not proving anything besides the fact that you are the weakest of the weak, and when you behave this way, the rest of society actually thanks you, because we know exactly exactly who you are. We know exactly who not to hire and who cannot and will not pull their own weight, who can't be trusted, who's not dependable, and who is most likely to make life a nightmare for everyone else because of their own entitlement and selfishness. So we actually appreciate it. And I love this tweet that somebody posted. It says, "I don't know how to tell you this, kids, but Jerry Seinfeld at your graduation is going to be the highlight of your life, and you missed it. It's all downhill from here." But I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure to hit that like button and make sure that you are following me on all of the other social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure that you are subscribed. I would truly appreciate it. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one.